Hey guys, just wanted to do my reaction video to The Flash Season 5, Episode 13, Goldface. Last week's episode was more memorabilia. Probably one of my favorite episodes of the season. It was definitely one of the best episode we've had since the show came back from hiatus, where they try to have a plan to go into Grace's mind, Inception style, to wake her up from her coma, to think that she would be a voice of reason for Orlin, nor because Sherlock suggested they use the memory machine they got from Earth 221, that Barry and Nora go in, and he warned about, two people going into Grace's mind might inadvertently share memories. So of course Nora decided to go in on her own, ended up getting trapped in Grace's mind. And when the team found out what Nora did, Barry and Iris went in after her, but ended up being trapped in Nora's memories rather than Grace's. And when they were in Nora's memories, I got to see her hanging out at the Flash Museum, and watching a video about in the Hall of Villains wing about Cicada, about how he was never caught. Iris saying this is still the future, even after Nora interfered. So apparently Cicada became active again after the Flash disappeared in the 2024 crisis. And yeah, he had like 152 victims and counting. Apparently he had a higher body count than Zoom or even the Red Death, who may or may not be the villain, a future big bad, maybe possibly in season 6. We don't know. If anybody doesn't know, that Red Death is basically a fusion of a deranged Batman who, after losing all of his Robins, decided, ended up getting all of the Rogue's equipment and to use it to subdue his Earth's Barry Allen, drag him to the Speed Force, in which they merged into a single being, a la Firestorm, in which like Bruce Wayne was the one that was in control and had all of Barry. Well, consciousness was trapped in his body, but he had all of Barry's powers, and became an evil speedster who was part of like the Dark Knight Metal, the evil Dark Knights from the Dark Multiverse, then Dark Knight Metals series. But of course, because the WB is so skittish about Batman being on TV and diluting the success of a motion picture Batman, that if we are going to see Red Death, it's probably going to be some kind of like a non-faithful variation, because there's. But in any case, Barry and Nora saw like a memory of basically coming across as like the authoritarian parent that Nora said she was, and chastising her for coming to the museum and running off without her, and even during the fight breaking her Flash action figure and telling her she's never coming back to the museum again. And Iris was like reluctant to start the paper because the only name she could use was Central City Citizen, and she thought like maybe she changed the future, she doesn't become like this horrible parent. But after learning from Caitlin that they have to find like the real memory and get past like the warped perception and the defense mechanisms of both Nora and Grace's memories. Nora having to get past the defense mechanism of Nora's memories. Nora having to get past the defense mechanism of Grace's memories, that they'll be able to see the real memory and escape. In Nora's case, she went into Grace's mind and found out. An interesting plot twist we found out is that she has like a shard of the DeVos satellite in her head, embedded in her head, that she was able to, I guess it gave her some form of telepathy or something, or at least she was able to remember Orland's declaring that he was going to go and kill every meta for what they did to him and Grace. And apparently it was able to listen to the conversation between Dr. Ambers and Orland about what they were doing, and the point where it's like she not only knew about her uncle's activities, but supported him wholeheartedly, especially given what happened to her parents being killed by Meta, and now it's like Meta's are going after the only family she has left now. She basically figured out Nora was excess, and manifestation of Cicada was like chasing her throughout Grace's mind, but then in a twist, we found out that this Cicada was not as burly as Orlin Dwyer, and also had like long hair and appeared to be female, which is implied to be an adult version of Grace. And it was implied, and given that it still remained after Nora, Barry, and Iris escaped while she was stuck in a coma, it was implied that the reason why Cicada was never stopped, quote unquote, stopped, was he was stopped. They stopped like the Orlin Dwyer version, but then after the Flash disappeared in the Crisis, Grace took on the mantle and became the second Cicada and continued his legacy. And quite frankly, it was ironic how it's like they made Grace's motives for anti-meta stance and wanting to like kill all metas. They made her motives for becoming a second Cicada more believable than her uncle becoming the first one. And that, but before Barry and Iris went to rescue Nora, they had to fight through Nora's defense mechanism in her mind, which is basically a reverse Flash costume, which during a fight between it and Barry, it had manifested itself into the Eobard Thawne version Eobard Thawne, it manifests itself into an actual like Eobard Thawne reverse Flash that using the Thinker's chair that Iris blasted him away when there was he got the upper hand on Barry. And they got to see Nora's real memory, which is just like apparently a warp that because of her like her anger of not having a dad and learning what of Iris and planning that ship, it kind of colored her perception of Iris of their whole relationship. When the real memory was that Iris like gently chastised her for like running off without saying anything, but was kind of more like much more nurturing and understanding. And I was kind of surprised by it because I remembered, the season 4 premiere where, she was so cold and distant towards everybody and stern that I figured it's like history just repeated itself after Flash disappeared a second time. But it was nice that the writers had some kind of subtly gave some kind of acknowledgement of the fact that they made that her experience from that incident a learning experience, and I guess took Joe's advice to heart that you can't have strength without faith. And I guess having faith that that Barry only disappeared but wasn't dead, and that she would come back someday, and also was able to be for the most part be the parent that Nora needed. And I guess like she did become she was a better parent than Nora made her out to be, and it was just that the whole putting the chip in her was the only dubious thing she did as a parent, which was relieving, but also just made it more egregious to why like a 27-year-old Nora actually such a snot-nosed brat, pretty much. But we did a nice moment where she did apologize for treating for the way she treated Iris both in the future and the present, and was like had much more empathy for what kind of position she was in and how much Iris was probably grieving at the loss of Barry. And we had a nice moment to when they opened they finally were opening up Central City Citizen, and Nora showed the newspaper of how instead they changed the future by having the future was changing by having the paper start in 2019 as opposed to 2021 as originally supposed to. And Iris telling her is like, "You're an amazing woman, Nora. I will always love you, past, present, and future," which is pretty heartwarming. And Sherlock, calling out Nora on her actions, saying like, "Oh, she's protecting her secret," and you think he was going to reveal what was really going on, but then he just says like, oh, she was just hiding her feelings towards her mother growing up or something like that. But then like Barry telling Sherlock that the Reverse Flash costume was Nora's defense mechanism. I think he's probably connected all the dots by now, but he just wants more concrete evidence. So this episode, from what I've heard about, is like Barry and Ralph go undercover in the criminal underworld to get some kind of device or something to stop Cicada, even though they had plenty of opportunities to stop him, but plotted to do stupidity. And, Iris goes to confront Orland directly, and apparently we get to see one of Sherlock's ex-wives. And I get maybe I'll be proven wrong, but so far I feel like this episode feels like kind of filler, and that the subplots would be more interesting than the main plot.
And thanks, Earl, and, try to eat some fruit or something.
Oh. Will do. Right then, gents. See you around.
Hopefully.
Just tell him Big Ralph sent you.
Thanks for the tip, Earl.
Also less over the top. That's nice.
How malleable the timeline is. Even the tiniest refinement can birth a whole new reality, an object above, place below. One path blocked leads to a whole new one, and if your timing is right, everything falls into place. Give the change.
Streets are paved with gold.
Really?
Maybe you didn't say it loud.
What the fuck?
Barry? Ralph?
Can't wait to see cops' faces when these hit the streets. Or what's left of their faces.
Do a deal.
Shut your mouth. Unless you want to be one-handed. Thought not. See, here's the thing. Scum? Recognize.
I'm nobody. No arrests. No convictions. Not for the Star City Museum heist where atomized lorazepam knocked the guards out, or the acid bomb that blew open the Federal Reserve Vault last month.
That was you?
Not according to police reports, because the only evidence I leave behind are red herrings for idiot cops to chase down. You want to know who I am? You can call me the chemist. But I really don't care what you call me. Just stop wasting my time.
Now he's using his head. Okay. Yeah, Barry.
Birthday present ever, Ralph.
Wait, what is she doing? Yep, still looking like he's constipated rather than angry and menacing. Great.
With an unusual idea.
Spectacular.
I have asked your ex-wives for help.
Great. What?
5 women married you for a reason. So who better to ask why they fell in love with you than them?
Okay, exactly.
I didn't think any of them would agree, but 4 of them actually jumped at the chance.
Of course they did. Because I owe them money. I'm behind on all the alimony payments, and they don't know what earth I'm on until now.
What?
That's right.
All 4 of them were
Hello,
doppelgangers?
detective. Our money back next month with interest. We know where you are now. Plus, we got a great alimony recovery agent by the name of Breacher.
Breacher.
TikTok, Sherlock.
Sherlock, where you're going?
Sherlock.
I like how you say it.
I like the yin yang they're doing. Now Ralph wants to do the right thing. So much better than season 4 with their little dynamic, for sure.
Who the hell are you?
Sorry, the door was unlocked. I'm a reporter. I'm looking for the owner, Robbie Byrne.
I'm Robbie.
I see you tomorrow then?
No. Let's finish this now.
Weird acting choices, man. Weird acting choices.
Making tea? Have to let it come one step at a time and enjoy whatever step you're in.
This is so fucked up what she's doing. Like, for real.
Yo, this ain't a library, man. You want to give me a hand?
Yeah, how about 2?
Ooh!
Sorry, not sorry, pal. This baby's going to a hospital.
Honestly,
Come on.
His head! Oh, I thought it was
all
gonna,
it does work, people.
disable the thing.
Cover me!
Okay, there's things around Stein.
Where'd that come from? I tripped. Let's get that printer.
I know, gotta keep up with. Oh, we don't want to compromise our morals, but man, it's like shooting in self-defense isn't like a bad thing. This whole subplot a lot more interesting, a lot better than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Don't move!
Loading dock. Now.
Use the stun gun on your dampeners, for fuck's sake.
Additional way. And I promise.
He really should have frisked us first.
More like fool's gold.
You didn't have that bag when you came in here.
Ooh. Ooh. Bring an actual gun! Oh my god! Run!
We're gonna beat you. I know how to give the cure to Cicada. I know his weakness.
Should have started ballet when I was 3, right?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, bye.
Au revoir, Miss Adler.
You're amazing.
Why the door open?
You're a meta.
Close Northwest Allen file. Open Cicada case work.
Wait. You would not harm you.
So that episode definitely exceeded my expectations. I mean, yeah, I mean the whole Goldface, villain of the, it was a bit fillerish. Goldface villain of the week. And them not going through the another like dead end trying to stop Cicada, but they made it interesting as opposed to like fighting him one on one, and then it's like, oh, they're gonna fly away. Oh, he's gonna fly away because of just characters acting like they have got the thumbs up their asses. I like the dynamic between Ralph and Barry. The actors have really good chemistry, and the fact is, I mean, they tried doing this dynamic in like season 4 and they never really stuck the landing just because of like they made Ralph such this like cringe-inducing, sleazy like Jim Carrey wannabe scumbag and try to like like Ralphie has a point. Maybe you should try things from his perspective and do things more unorthodox like he does. But it ends up being just freaking like over the top sight gags and crap, and it's like it's like at the time they just didn't care about trying to send any kind of like message or trying to have these characters really like learn from each other. They were just like, it's like this is why such like season 4 is such an atrocity. Like it was like the Batman and Robin of the Flash series, and they prioritized cringe comedy and campiness over heart and story. And this is not the case with this. So when they retried doing that similar dynamic, it's become more of like a yin yang relationship where I felt like I I kind of understood both characters' perspectives. Barry not wanting to compromise his morals, and like all these like weapons fall into the wrong hands. And Ralph saying is like, the ends justify the means. We gotta more, Cicada is our priority. We can't worry about this, this criminal, trying to stop this like criminal, this criminal organization. Let's just get where we need and get out. And Barry was starting to like come around to Ralph's point of view, but then Ralph started to feel guilty about the fact that, he felt like maybe I'm kind of being a bad influence on this guy who's just trying to be a stand-up guy. Why he try to like lock him in the truck and go in on his own, and of course like seeing how that 3D printer for the artificial organs. It's like probably a few sci-fi fantasy concepts that they had, and they showed it didn't feel like such a far-fetched idea. 3D printers making artificial organs compared to like a bunch of other like pseudoscience or like devices that further the high-tech devices that further the plot, which was nice. And Ralph seeing they were supposed to be create artificial organs for children who needed them. It kind of is a testament to how much Ralph has grown as a character and how much Barry has been a legitimately good influence on him. And the fact they were able to kick some ass without having to use their powers. I mean, I would have thought they would have the common sense to I don't know. There's like considered like, oh, let's set the stun. Let's try to use it on their power dampening cups and just kind of just blow it off. But Barry thinking on his feet of trying to get Goldface to electrocute himself, and though he's still alive. I mean, I'm hoping they was taken into custody at some point. I don't know what happened. I mean, they didn't specify that. I mean, it didn't seem like. I guess I can see how people would see that whole subplot as kind of pointless, but I just felt like it was a nice, kind of character piece, a nice dynamic. Iris, using her investigative skills. This is what I've been happy. This is probably the most I've seen her use her investigative skills, like the entire series, or at least since season 1, to look into a supervillain, and having the balls like sneaking to Orland Dwyer's house and come up with a ruse to to interview him and look into what he's doing. I was surprised like she didn't bring a gun with her in a worst case scenario, but like she was still able to defend herself with a mace and stabbing him, and where he has the shrapnel in his chest to disable him, and like I guess get I guess get away from him, but then Orla naturally escaped. But it's like she still found her own way for them to administer the metahuman cure, which is cool. And I kind of like how they're trying to give some more depth to Sherlock besides being the detective. It was nice to see Wellsabard again. But the whole thing about, where he talks about taking on another man's face and knowing how he thinks, not only in his own time, but across like infinite Earths. And I felt like that was kind of a stretch. And although it was good to, I like Kimberly Williams Paisley. I remember from watching both Father of the Bride movies, and she actually grew up in the same hometown as I did, right in New York. Her and her sister Ashley Williams. My choir teacher used to talk about them a lot, and I mean, I liked how they were trying to do the same shtick, and I liked the twist of how Sherlock Wells fell in love with the same woman on the same version of Irene Adler on different Earths, and it kind of makes sense. And keeping up with the whole, not only the Sherlock the Sherlock Holmes shtick, but also the whole Wells doppelganger thing, but. The fact that Eobard Thawne having knowledge of it's like, oh, you take on another man's face, you not really understand him across one Earth, but over infinite Earths. I don't know why it's coming out weird. It's like we both know that the original Earth 1 Harrison Wells and the Earth 2 version of Harrison Wells was implied they both fell in love with Tess Morgan on two different Earths. So I figured just like Sherlock Wells, a Wells doppelganger would fall in love with, the Tess Morgans in different Tess Morgans throughout the multiverse, but I guess it wouldn't be able to work given that the Earth 1 Tess Morgan is dead. But it just seemed like a kind of contrivance that he just happened to know that Sherlock would be able to bump into and fall in love with an Earth 1 Irene Adler. Like, you would think, like, the Tess Morgan thing would make, like, it kind of is weird, is, like, did he have, like, knowledge of, like, different Wells doppelgangers as much as he knew about Barry's other enemies, like DeVoe and Cicada? I mean, he, like, traveled out the multiverse. I mean, I guess maybe that's how he seemed to know about Zoom, especially in the season 1 finale, where his helmet came out of the wormhole. So, I guess it was a little bit flimsy. But it was nice to see, like, they give some more depth to Sherlock Wells. But it's just the fact that it's like Nora is becoming just as manipulative as Eobard, because he's naturally because Eobard, her mentor. It just makes her come across like more like unsympathetic, especially since. I feel like the jury's out about, just what exactly, what is Eobard's specific motives this time. Because I don't know, because I mean, I can see it. Because, like, he seemed, like, Tom Cavanaugh did portray him as kind of somewhat sinister and cocky. But it's like, Todd Helbig claimed that they would, they were trying to have this song was supposed to have like a different attitude, and they wanted to, have to retread old ground, rehash old storylines of, Eobard Thawne manipulating the team. I mean, it's not like they haven't given redemption arcs to other big bads in the Arrowverse, like Damien Dark and Slade Wilson, so I can see it going either way, but I guess between making that statement and Eobard's behavior, I guess he was just saying he was doing that to kind of leave things as ambiguous and leave us guessing as to what he's truly trying to do and get out of all and gain from all of this. But otherwise, it's like I thought it was still a pretty, especially the Sherlock Wells subplot being a mixed bag. It was a pretty solid episode. I liked it. I feel like, you know, the plot's really starting to thicken and picking up, and it seems like next week's episode is about, I guess, delve into more of, I guess, Nora using her ability to like reverse time and I guess have kind of a whole Groundhog's Day scenario and prevent some kind of certain tragedy. And learn and it would kind of learn that you can't just. I mean, I feel like she would kind of learn not to use time travel to fix everything, or maybe she can't fix everything with time travel. But considering like what she's trying to do about, you know, Cicada saving Barry, I guess she's going to realize how the manipulating time can have negative consequences, and just assume it's all going to be positive. Again, solid episode. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. What do you guys think of it? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.